Welcome back to the Weaving Resonance podcast. Today's conversation feels incredibly meaningful to me because I am sitting down with someone whose presence has literally been woven into my story for nearly a decade. Someone I have spoken about every time I am sharing my own story of how I came to do what I do now. Harshada Wagner. This is the person who was holding the container when I had my spontaneous Kundalini awakening in India over 10 years ago. And in this episode, we move into a conversation around what it really means to awaken and to live from that place. We talk about Kundalini as an inner intelligence. We talk about the way intuition guides us through our life, and how our own energy is always drawing in exactly what we need for our own evolution. We also explore the shift from external authority to internal authority, which is something I've been really thinking about lately, and what it looks like to truly trust yourself in a world that often teaches you not to. This conversation is very deep, it's grounded, and it's filled with so much wisdom. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let yourself receive what resonates today. All right, so welcome back to the Weaving Resonance podcast. I am so excited to have our guest today, Harshada Wagner. You have heard me refer to him as David Wagner as well. And I went with Harshada to India almost 10 years ago. I don't know if you know that has been almost 10 years. I think this January 2027 will be 10 years.
Wow.
And that's where I had my spontaneous awakening that has really led to everything that I do now. So I'm very excited to just have your presence here today. I was sharing with you before we got on the call that I have said your name on every podcast I've ever been interviewed in the last 5 years. You know, every time I speak about my story, your name is so present in that, which makes me kind of want to cry, because I've just always felt so connected to the pure medicine that you delivered and brought to that experience in India, and the awakening that I was able to have in Alandi, which I have a funny little thing for you, that every time I have told people about Alandi, India, even if they come from India and I have said that town, people are like, no one knows what it is. And in my head, I have decided that it didn't even happen. Like, I'm like, yeah, I just made it up. Like, it's a magical dream that I had and it doesn't even exist, you know? But it holds such a deep connection in my heart. And I actually, you know, I don't know if you'll remember this, David, but Harshana, sorry, I'm really trying to connect that word because I'm so used to calling you David.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember this, but when we were in India, I asked you to grab a rock out of the river in Alandi because it was the only thing I wanted to bring back from India was just a rock because of the electricity that came through the ground in that temple. And you went into the river and you scooped up a rock and you gave it to me. And that is the only thing, that rock and the little picture of Yaniswar that I still have. I carry it in my wallet. I can't even believe I'm saying that I still carry a wallet. Those are the things that I carry with me everywhere. It has such deep resonance in my bones. So with all that said, and everyone that's listening, I know, it's wild. But for everyone that's listening, you all know that I like to open these containers, giving our guests an opportunity to open it in whatever kind of frequency, resonance that they're in right now that feels beautiful and aligned. So I've spoken to David. He's going to open our container for today, and then we'll move into kind of you sharing more of who you are so people can get to know you beyond just my story of you.
That's so beautiful about Alandi. You know, it's true. Nobody knows about it. Many Indians don't know about it. But especially any Indian who does know about Alandi, when you tell them that you have a rock from the Indrani River from Alandi, they will know how special that is. So that's like, I didn't remember that, but that is so, so beautiful.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah,
Thank you
me
for saying
too.
that.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm going to read a short poem. This is a Rumi poem that was rendered by Coleman Barks, the great poet and translator of Rumi who died just a couple of weeks ago. And then I'll lead a little meditation if that's okay. So Rumi says, your grief for what you've lost lifts a mirror up to where you're bravely working. Expecting the worst, you look, and instead, here's the joyful face you've been wanting to see. Your hand opens and closes, opens and closes. If it were always a fist or always stretched open, you would be paralyzed. Your deepest presence is in every small contracting and expanding. The two as beautifully balanced and coordinated as bird wings. He says, your deepest presence is in every small contracting and expanding. The two as beautifully balanced and coordinated as bird wings. So with that image, let's close our eyes. And people listening, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes with us. And here where I am, I can hear birds singing. And we have this really simple gesture of closing our eyes, of contracting a little bit for the sake of going within. And we can just feel the movement of our breath. And if you're sensitive, you can also feel an energetic togetherness that we share. Like Anna and I are here together in this recording, and we're together with you in the watching or the listening. In this moment, I feel I need to relax my belly to help me to feel into that. You can see what helps you. Okay. So nice to be together. I hope that was not too long and long enough.
Yeah, that was perfect. It was perfect. Thank you. Harshana, would you be open to kind of taking us into, I kind of look at our journeys of life as kind of like connecting the dots, right? There's like these dots that then there's a line that connects to the next dot. And I'm zooming back into, I believe, when you were a teenager, that I feel that a lot happened that kind of was a dot there, right? That started to connect you onto the path that you're on now. So if you could take us back to share that dot, that pinpoint, and then draw that thread into where you are now and what shifted, what's changed, which I'm sure is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Illinois, in Peoria, Illinois, which is kind of, a small American city. And my parents in my family were, what you could say were kind of like a high functioning alcoholic sort of family. So I grew up a little sideways. I was weird kid. I got in a lot of trouble. I was into a lot of drugs and, drinking and stuff like that from a very young age. And I ended up getting sober, like going to 12-step program when I was still in high school. I had to. And in that, also for anyone that knows those programs, they know that that's a deeply spiritual program. So that was really the first thing. But what connects more to this moment, and I'm still sober, all these years later, I've done a lot of different 12-step work, actually, aside from just that. But in that context, one of my friends there gave me this book, Be Here Now, by Baba Ram Dass. And Baba Ram Dass, most people probably know, he was a Harvard professor of psychology who went to India and found a guru and found the whole spiritual path, and then became a great proponent of it in the West. So I read that book, and that sparked that same journey in me, I guess you could say, of being this, Western person who got initiated into this Eastern spirituality through this sort of like having a guru, studying the inner practices of yoga. Very, very fast forward, but eventually, some years later, I went to India. I started working with a guru and received initiation, and this is many years, just like blurring the fast forward. Began teaching, as a very junior teacher, and was exposed to, all of these great teachings and practices. And eventually found my way to New York City, which is where I was when we met, and found that there were a lot of people who are really interested in these deep Eastern teachings. And so I was able to help them. But then there were a lot of people who maybe that wasn't their primary interest, but they were interested in spiritual awakening, or they were in a healing process, or they had some sort of like inner destiny to be helped by the stuff that I was helped by, and just found that I had the great good fortune of helping lots and lots of people. Some of them were, hardcore yoga philosophy people or meditation people, but finding that these teachings and practices are helpful for lots of people. And that's still what I'm doing today. I don't live in New York anymore, but that was like this super fast fast. I don't know if I stopped on any dots for you or not, but
Yeah. When did you, I'm just curious about this. When did you start leading the pilgrimages in India? Because one thing that I always tell people when I share that experience is I say, Harshana has been doing this for a very long time. And when I stepped into that container, like I even remember kind of the call that we had, because this is also something I greatly respect about you, is that you don't just kind of put like, yeah, just like pay and sign up on my website. You're like, let's have a call, because you have so much integrity, not only about the individual, but about the group. And like, does this work for the individual? And also, does this work for the group container? And I remember having that call with you and feeling so safe, because it was just so clear to me that everything that could have went wrong before had already went wrong. You knew like exactly what to do, and it was like going, I remember going, my daughter was a year old at the time, which was a big deal that I
Yeah.
left, for
Yeah.
2 weeks. And I remember people having all these opinions, from my parents to other parents, to my own husband, right? And I remember just going, no, I know that I'm safe. And it was really you
Mm.
that let me know that from just what you were saying, how, you like even said, we only eat hot foods, right? Like just to make sure people don't get sick. And you just had really thought it through. So I'm curious, one, how long have you been doing that? Because you're still doing it.
Yeah.
And then two, what have you really, like, what has changed in terms of what you're seeing people really need from when you began to now?
Yeah. Wow. Um, what a rich what a rich kind of question. When you were talking about that it's been 10 years since our trip when you came, I was just doing the math in my mind. And so this year in, I guess, October, it will be 30 years since my first trip that I
Wow.
went on. When I first went to India, of course, wasn't leading people there, but well, my first trip to India, I was teaching from my guru's ashram, but that was 30 years ago. And so at the time that you came, we had been doing that for 20. I had been going for 20 years. And interesting, like the 7 is an important number for some reason, because I'm pretty sure 2007 was the first year that I brought a group of people there. So yeah, it's going on 20 years of bringing the groups of people there. Yeah.
Mm. I've been thinking
Oh,
so
and
much
you
about
asked me
the
something
number
else.
7.
You
No,
asked me
it's okay.
something else too. You asked me like how
Which
long have I
was,
been doing it, and
and what have you seen from
oh yeah,
when you
yeah,
started
yeah.
to now, right? Like, what are you seeing? What
Mm,
is starting to shift in people? Because obviously the
yeah,
collective is impacting that as well. So I'm just
yeah,
curious.
yeah. Um, well, first of all, even from the very beginning, we had that level of care, and it was because that was the level of care that I was given by the Indians who really brought me to India.
Right.
And, from the very beginning, we always had such a great team of Indian teachers and Indian retreat managers and stuff. And that was always kind of my agreement with them, was that, okay, I'm going to bring these groups of people here. I'm going to keep the groups really small though, so that we don't overwhelm these places that we're going to. And I'm going to make sure that they know what we're doing, both for the sake of their experience, the participants, but also for the sake of the culture, the precious, precious culture, um, in these places that we're going to. And that has always been the thing. And what I've seen over these 20 years is that it's it's changed in terms of especially how much orientation people need. Back even 10 years ago, most of the people were from New York, and we were part of kind of a local community there, and there was a lot of support. Now people are coming from all over the world. Maybe they haven't done a lot of work with me before. So we do like 8 now. Now there's 8 weeks of orientation before we go. There's 8 Zoom
Wow.
classes where we go over the teachings, the places that we're going, all of that kind of health stuff. And what I find is that is more important than ever. It's just that people really are so clear about what they're going for, and what's going to be expected of them, but also what they can expect to experience.
Wow. 8 weeks. Oh my goodness. It's
Yeah.
wild. One of the things that I think about a lot, which, listen, there are many that I think about often about that trip. But one of the things that I think about a lot is that when we arrived, you immediately took us to a store so that we could dress locally. And when we were dressed as locals, we really were able to kind of like just have complete immersion into
Mm,
the experience, which I think really impacted what occurred with me because it just became such an total experience. I don't know how else to say that. It was like a total embodiment
yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And Yeah, one thing that has been coming up a lot for me as of late is that you also said, you invited us to not consume. Like we could write, you said you could journal, but try not to read or try not to kind of like be on your phone. And I went totally off digital. I remember
Yeah.
I was like very serious. I was like, I'm off of this unless I'm talking to my husband to see my daughter, kind of thing. But I remember like, oh, I can't read a book. Like, this is weird. I'm so used to filling time with consuming.
Yeah.
And not consuming really helped. And also, I'm not usually someone who journaled, yet now I have this book from when I was there, a whole journal of every single day that was in that, right?
Mm.
And we were talking a little bit before we hit record about writing, and something that I've been thinking about lately, and I haven't even talked about this with anyone, and I haven't really solidified it in my awareness. I just know that I feel very called, and my intuition is kind of really making it clear that I usually read every morning. And lately, I'm like, I need to write. And I don't know why I need to write. And I'm not sure if it's because of everything that is occurring in the world, that every single moment things are coming into us and we are consuming, digesting, trying to metabolize, like things that are
Mm.
completely impossible to metabolize.
Mm.
And it's also made me think because, so my mom is currently, she just went from the hospital to rehab. She got COVID and she has Parkinson's. So now she's in
Mm.
rehabilitation. And I was in Barnes and Noble looking for this book, Mary Magdalene Revealed, by, I believe her name is Megan Watterson. I don't know if you
Like a
ever read that, but
Sure. Of
so
course. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I actually listened to the audio. So I was like, oh, let me get this book and I'll read it to my mom while she's in
Yeah.
rehab because I think she would really
Yeah.
resonate. And I was talking to my sister on the phone in Barnes and Noble, and I'm like, I can't find this book. I'm looking for this book. And, I just want to get a book for mom to read to her. And this guy out of nowhere standing next to me is like, why don't you get the Bible? It's the best book ever written. And I was like, oh. And I said, well, she's already read that. And then in my head, I literally thought, I never have, but it's because I don't know who to trust with the transcription of it.
Mm. Mm.
I literally don't know. And
Yeah.
my husband is Greek. I've been learning Greek, which is a really challenging language to learn. But it's also made me realize like every word has like a root meaning and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, all of this, it really depends on transcription and perspective of a person.
Mm.
And I love that you were sharing that you're currently writing a book, right? Transcribing the Bhagavad Gita. So I'd love you to, if you can, take us into your awareness of what
Mm.
does it mean to transcribe?
Mm.
Why does it matter that we are thinking about that right now? Who is transcribing things and who we feel resonant with that
Yeah.
perspective to be shifted onto a page?
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. And I feel like that Christian Bible is a really good example where um, first of all, to say, no offense to anyone, but the Christian Bible that we have in English is one of the worst translations of a scripture. Like, just from my point of view of working with a lot of scriptures, just in terms of like the whole chain of transmission from, let's say, Jesus through, the apostles, and
Mhm.
it was written hundreds of years later and then edited. Just the what's in it was severely edited by the Vatican and then has been translated again and again. We really don't know what
Right.
like what in that case Jesus said, or like Mary Magdalene is a great example. Up until recently, everyone thought that she was a sex worker,
Hmm.
because that's what the Vatican said, probably because it was really threatening to the idea that there was a female apostle, or maybe even someone who was intimately close with Jesus. And anyway, I think that the way that I think that it's really dangerous when a scripture, whatever the scripture is, like I have Bhagavad Gita with Yaneshwar's commentary right here.
I
Um,
have to get that.
we can get you a copy. Remember, this is this is
Yes.
Yadishwar's. In his tomb, they put this mask on at night. Anyway, it's really dangerous when these become like standalone resources. That, from the tradition, the spiritual tradition that I come from, these were never meant to be like, here, read this, and this is spirituality. Um, these were always part of a relational tradition where people would have a relationship with a teacher or a guru or a master teacher, or in some cases just like a sangha, like other devotees. But generally, even that is not the thing. But to have someone who is teaching the spiritual path, not teaching the Bhagavad Gita or the Bible or whatever else, but like somebody who's teaching the path of spiritual awakening, of spiritual intimacy with the divine, of um, healing or soul freedom, or however we think of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever the text is something that teacher has as a resource to refer to. And because you could take a verse, and what I'm finding is I'm working with all of these old Sanskrit texts, is that most of the translations are not great. And we could geek out on that, if you want to, but but then, even the best translation, it really takes someone who has like processed what that teaching is talking about, at least to some extent. There's like some like a mother bird or something that like pre-digests the food before it's given to the baby birds, that there's a little bit of processing there. And then like one verse, a couple verses at a time, is so much to work with. And then, in our tradition, these are usually collections of oral transmissions. But anyway, it ends up in a collection, and then you have a collection, and it seems like, well, this is a book, like Megan Waters' book, that you just like,
Right.
it's got this coherent theme to it, and it's got a beginning and a middle and an end, and the book itself has some sort of a mission statement. The scriptures aren't usually like that. They're usually these collections of energetic medicine packs. And also, most scriptures have a lot of erroneous stuff in them too. Just historical stuff from that time, or things that are really irrelevant to modern readers. And then if you have this community philosophy that like, this is the Bible and everything in it is the infallible word of God, this English translation, it's really dangerous, because then all of that erroneous stuff is the word of God, and so are these things that are like heavily coded, bigoted stuff from whatever time it was written. So, I mean, don't get me started, because I could go on and on about this.
It makes me think about, though, like I sense, so two things. One is that I always think about that what's very dangerous is someone who knows all the right words to say but has never embodied it. Because it's extremely dangerous. They can manipulate anyone because it will sound exactly like what a professional would say, or exactly what someone spiritual would say, whatever we want to do, or word we want to put there. But it's dangerous because it hasn't been embodied, it hasn't been lived through. And that's I sense what you're saying too, with like having a teacher that has had so much experience, embodied experience, lived through it, that they can see it from a few different angles, including the angle of the student in that moment.
Mm.
Right. So I really get what you're saying in terms of it being this dangerous thing that we really need to look at. And then the second point that I think about often is that it's very dangerous for us to say, okay, whatever this book or this person or this show says I should do is what I should do, and that's it. Because it completely eliminates the idea of self-responsibility.
Yeah.
And that we have choice.
Yeah.
That we can read something and pass it through our own discernment, which is one of the most important parts, if not the most important part, right? And then carry it forward. But if we just go, oh, that's it. What I see this even when I'm doing readings for people, which, is just like a big thing. Like I learn a lot doing readings, right? And one of the things that I learn is that the majority of people that come very much understand that this is not a moment to give me their power and that whatever I say is what to do. But there are some people that come and are just like, please tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'll do whatever you say. And then after I do it, if it doesn't go right, I'll blame you, right? Or I'll blame that like intuition isn't real or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's just this lack of responsibility of going, no, like your choices,
Yeah.
they are the most powerful thing you have.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is after you make that choice, you're responsible for what comes next.
Yeah.
Right? It's like what we teach our children, right? Like there are consequences. A thing that was really coming through to ask you, because sometimes before I sit down with people, I shouldn't say sometimes, it's all the time, I tune, right? And I'm like, okay, so what's here? What wants to come through? And the question that immediately came through when I tuned to like our connection in this conversation is, I'm curious to know what you sense is dying right now and what you sense is being born.
I love that. And are you speaking for me personally in the collective?
I think it's kind of like micro, macro cosm,
Yeah. Okay. I want to put a pin in that, but I want to speak to what you were just speaking to. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, please.
Because you were talking about Kundalini before, and here's something that I think that your listeners will hopefully relate to, is that, that Kundalini energy, we call it, but it's our spiritual intelligence that is more or less awake. It's usually, not completely asleep, and when it awakens, it's usually not completely awake. There's a spectrum, and it, like the bird wings in Rumi's poem, it opens and closes, Anyway, once it awakens the way that it did for you when you were in Alandi, it's that power that is the teacher. That in our tradition, we say that the guru and the Kundalini it's one thing. And that it will draw to you whatever you need. So it will draw the scripture that you need. It will draw the teacher that you need. It will draw the intuitive reading that you need. But it's running the show. Your own awakening is the thing that is actually making all these things happen. And for me, when I think of it that way, it helps me. Because sometimes if I hear, well, let me not give my own power away, or like, because when I think of that, I just think of it's like my mind, or like sometimes I can be really stupid. Like sometimes I can be really, I have trauma, and I have, like sometimes I make terrible choices, and sometimes I need to give that away to somebody who can help me.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
get that. Hmm.
So I'm okay with giving that power away, but the power that I'm not going to give away is this thing of just understanding, that once we have a relationship with that inner power in us, to know that that's what's happening here. Um, so anyway, since you had mentioned Kundalini and then you were talking about that, and that's great that you represent that, especially doing what you do. And also, side note, I'd love to like have a reading from you. Like maybe we
Yeah.
could share, like I could do like a private session for you, and you could do a reading for me or something.
Totally. I'd love that. And
Putting you on
I
the spot.
resonate with what you said too. Like when you said that power is the teacher, I was like, oh, I get that. Like I've
Yeah,
felt that since the moment
yeah,
that electricity went through my
yeah,
body,
yeah,
like I have felt it running so much through my system on
yeah,
with everything that I'm doing. So I
yeah,
love that. Never
yeah.
thought about it as a teacher until you said it. When you put the
Yeah.
word on it, I was like,
Yeah.
that's
And like
true.
all these teachers, whether it's Yaneshwar or, all of these teachers, they're just like human manifestations of that power that can come outside of us and talk to us sometimes.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and it's always going to be coming through filters. It's always going to be coming through their filter and our filter. I mean, you know
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
Like
I
the
do.
I always say the very best guide, intuitive guide, astrologer, psychic, healer, whatever, the very best is like 80%. Always give like a 20% margin of
Mhm.
error, and that's for the best. That's for
Yes,
somebody
it's
like you
true.
that is like absolutely world-class intuitive. Like give at least 20% margin of error. And then it
You
just goes
have
down
to.
from there. But I've seen it happen so many times where like you're just at the farmer's market and there's somebody laying out tarot cards there or something. And you get a message that changes the course of your life in a really, really great way.
Yeah.
It's not because of the tarot cards, and it's not because of that reader or the farmer's market, but it's because that thing in you is like, I need to blossom. There's a rock here. So like what can I find? What's the path of least resistance to move this rock out of the way from my blossoming? Oh, there's a billboard with a sign. That's exactly the message that I needed to see. Like, oh, I got an email. There's this course that's happening. Actually, I'm going to sign up for that. Anyway.
Mhm. I do. That's whenever I start sharing the story of India, literally the story always starts with, I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw that you had posted one spot left on my India retreat. And I just was like, I'm going. Like something just in me was like, I'm going to go. And it was leaving really soon. It was leaving in like a month and a half. And I was like, I'm going. And like I had to get a visa and everything.
Yeah.
But I truly sense what you're saying. Like there is just this kind of like, and I really resonate with what you said in terms of like the path of least resistance.
Mm.
I always am aware that our intuition is doing its best to take us down the path of least resistance. It doesn't mean we
Mm.
always pick that path,
Right. Right.
or that we can even sense it, but it really is that's the path. And if you don't take that path, it's like, okay, we'll open up this one. Let's see like what's the next path to the
Yeah.
least
Or I'll
resistance.
wait. It's like water, or it's
Exactly.
like it's not
Yes.
flowing. I'll just wait until there's an
Yeah.
opportunity to
It's
flow,
so
and then I'll
patient.
flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
Um,
here in my private practice, I try to, as best as possible, work directly with that. Like work directly with that
mm,
power in people. But one person they have found that through plant medicine. Somebody else has found it through some kind of a religious experience. Somebody else has come in and they found it through getting sober, 12-step program, whatever.
yeah.
Um, it's like there's over all of these years of doing this, it's like that's why I say this, because I've just seen it again and again and again. It will use anything. It will use everything to find some room to move. and
Hmm.
and then it's a matter of just like skillfully making space for it, and then finding ways to help people integrate it into their life's mission, whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said that, I actually just thought about like birth and death as even those pathways too. Like giving birth was huge for me in terms of that. I think going to India a year later.
Yeah.
But and also even with my second. Yeah. And I even see it like, I mean, I've been thinking about death since I was a really young girl. Like all my oldest journals, like when I was like 5, I'm just writing about death. I was so curious about death all the time. But even as I get older and I see my parents getting older, obviously, I just keep thinking about that as a huge moment too of that transition. Yeah.
So what's being born and what's dying? That's always a great question. Sometimes I'll not sometimes recently I've been doing this meditation where I'll have people kind of go in and imagine their first breath. Like imagine the first breath that they took when they were born. And then fast forward and imagine their last breath, the last exhalation that they take when they leave their body. And then between those two to find their breath in this moment. It's very potent kind of reflections. And in that sense, literally, the birth and the death. I think that one of the things that's dying, since we're talking about the Bible, is I think that there's just this. I think that there's like like in feng shui, there are these different like stages, and the last stage is when something is like collapsing. And I see, since we're talking about spirituality and spiritual learning, I see these old patriarchal systems really in that stage. They're just old and broken and collapsing, and the authority of the best-selling author or the authority of the big arena guru or the authority of these systems that have built themselves off of these bad translations of the Bible or whatever. And whether it's the warfare that we see or the political insanity that we see or the leadership vacuum that we're all suffering from right now, so much of it leads back into this kind of like patriarchal, usually white man somewhere there. And if it's not a white man, it's whiteness in some other man, usually. And even if it's not a man. Some sort of constructed mental, political idealistic kind of a thing. Sorry, my words are escaping me in this moment. But that as opposed to, we could say if that's dying, what's being born is an authority that's based in the opposite. That's based in, you could say, a feminine, but in this space of receptivity and in this space of inclusivity is not a word.
Inclusivity?
No, not inclusivity either. I think that was there for me. No, but like the spirit of inquiry, but like subtle inquiry, and that that there's this kind of an authority, but you can't impose that authority on anyone else. This other one that's dying, that authority it's only really imposed on others. It's rarely imposed on the people that are, they don't impose it on themselves.
Yeah.
So bringing that back to us and our spirituality, it's like there isn't anything that we can sign up for anymore. I don't believe that there ever will be again. Some spiritual path or some religion or some teacher or whatever that we just say, okay, this is my thing. And just ride it all the way to the sunset. I think that mystics today are really wonderfully spiritually omnivorous, not promiscuous. That's what we were for a minute. We're a little bit of this, a little bit of that, like dabbling, but omnivorous. In other words, like we're nourishing ourselves, but from lots of different sources. Like people are working with intuitive guides. People are working with spiritual teachers. People are going to therapy. I think it's really important that most spiritual people are in therapy. People are working with their sexuality. They're working with their somatic awareness. They're working with their diet. They're working with their movement. They're working with their feng shui or whatever their spaces. They're working with the environment. And that for each person, that exact salad is going to be a little bit different. It's very new. That kind of thing is very, very new, and it really flies in the face of the fundamentalist.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's what you're asking. I don't know.
I love that. I really see it. Like even the visual that I was getting when you were saying that is, how it used to be so my son has really long hair, right? He literally looks like me. His hair is as long as me or as long as mine.
Beautiful.
And it's so nice to see him walking around and, being accepted. Whereas, like my older brother, my dad kicked him out of the house when he was 18 because he had long hair. Right.
Yeah.
So there was like a certain standard in which people needed to be. They needed to look, they needed to speak a certain way, they needed to have a certain faith, right, in order to be accepted.
Yeah.
And I really see what you're saying of like, now it's kind of turning into like, can we embody who we really are? I keep thinking of the word, which I've been pondering for quite a while now. You kept using the word authority, and I've been thinking about it as inner authority. Like kind of this inner authority is awakening within us, right? But within that, we have choice in what we're pulling in. Like you're saying, this kind of mixed salad. And just do we have the ability to really own that, like own this, that we're all different and find the beauty in that, just like we see outside of us everywhere. It's mirrored everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that that's what you really
Yeah.
clicked on,
I mean,
dialed into.
what's the authority that like a plant is following? It's not following any kind of thing from the outside is telling it what to do. It's like within it, and it's just like unfolding. It's DNA, it's cells, it has a particular nature. It's what the Bhagavad Gita calls a swadharma, that is just unfolding if it has what it needs and it's not
Right.
impeded. So it's a spirituality that is like looking at like removing the impediments and finding the nourishment that we need, and then just holding space for that to unfold. That's what I do anyway with people. And then the authority, the root of it is author. And so it's like, sometimes I'll use this, it's kind of trite, but this idea of like, we're writing the screenplay of our own movie. And at this point, a lot of it's already been written. I'm 54 now, so a lot of where I'm in the third act probably. But how do I want that third act to be? It's not nothing is inevitable.
Yeah.
And if I have the tools, and again, to take away the impediments and nourish myself the way that I need to, then I can And it's not that it's going to go exactly however I say it's going to be, but at least I can be in there and, listening and like putting that input in there, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like it's not just, you're not just unconscious and it's just, okay, this is like the next part of my life. It's like, wait, I can look at this and have influence on what this will
Yeah.
be and what this will be not only for you, but for your children and for your children's
Yeah.
children, like the whole spectrum of it. So,
And
yes.
you're in this interesting phase with your kids' age because they're still very much still under your wing. I'm in this really interesting phase. Om Namah Shivaya. My son is 14 and my she's only 11, but she's very, very precocious, and girls mature faster, generally speaking.
Mhm.
And they're both at this really intense individuation phase where it's like I don't have that much direct authority over them. It's like their inner
Yeah.
authority is really, and their inner authority is like sometimes, from my point of view, not very good. I had an argument with my daughter last night where we're trying to get her to read more like actual books, not just like screens. And finally, she, after so much argument, agreed that she was going to go and put on a timer and read. And I go into her room and she's sitting in an almost dark room and she just has this like purple LED light on her ceiling. And she's just like reading in this dark room. And we had this whole long argument about that. And I lost the argument also. At the end of the argument, she did her reading time in that dark room. Anyway, only my tonight. But that's a whole other thing. And I was sitting there at the table thinking about this and thinking about how did I write this screenplay of parenting? How did it get to this?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little scared of that phase.
No, but really and truly, it's so fun. It's
Okay,
so
good.
cool. It's so cool to like, if we can get our ego out of the way a little bit,
Yes.
it's their clapbacks are so, I just love these kids so much. And even when and especially when they're driving me the most crazy, like my daughter was like, I want to sleep with the lights on and you tell me it's too bright. And now I want to read with these lights because she wants to have those on when she's asleep. Now I want to read with them and you say it's too dark. Which is it?
It's so great though. It's so great to hear because like I feel that way. Like I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. Like I'm not trying to say it's not difficult. Like it is on every layer of your being, you know? And it is just, I mean, the love is so insane. Like
Yeah,
I can't comprehend what I feel inside for my children. It's just
yeah,
the most powerful thing, and for
yeah,
my husband. Like I
yeah.
just like it's been so extraordinary to watch it evolve and get to this point of just holy crap. And I think it's so nice to hear that, like what you were just sharing. Like it's so amazing, even in the lights on or lights off, debate.
And that's how it is, for people that don't have families or don't have children. They can have
Yeah.
that like with their mission. They can have that like with their what they're creating in the world. They can have that, even like with their healing process itself. That same thing. It's
Yes.
like, God, this drives me crazy, but oh man, I'm so grateful for it.
Mm.
Even though it's so hard, whatever the thing is, starting a business or digging ourselves out of some karmic hole we dug ourselves into, or whatever it is, we wouldn't, at the end of the day, we probably wouldn't trade any of it for anything.
Yes, exactly. Mm. Thank you so much, Harshna. If you could share a little bit, where people can find you, how they can work with you, I
Yeah.
would love for them to get that information.
Yeah, I mean, I love working with people, doing this kind of like one-on-one work with people. That's probably the main thing that I was doing in those days, and I'm still doing now. And you can find me Best way to find me is on probably social media like Instagram. It's just Harshada Wagner is my handle on Instagram. And on Substack, trying to use Substack more because I can write a little bit more substantially there. And people that subscribe to that, they get like guided meditations, and they get articles, I call them articles, but they're more like transmissions, that we do every week. Yeah, I have a website too. It's just what is it? It's davidhwagner.com.
And I'll find
as you
all
can
of
see,
this and
as you
link
can see,
it.
that's not a primary thing. Finding me on social media, that's a lot easier, and it will link to my website and whatever's happening next. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you would like to leave us with? Any closing that feels resonant right here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about Yaneshwar, and I'm just thinking about how he was this spiritual master who he did this whole commentary on the Bhagavad Gita when he was just a kid. He was just 16 when he did this, and he wrote so many beautiful poems and did so much while he was alive. But then when he was very young, he was just 21, he chose to do what's called Jivan Samadhi, which is kind of like to go into a tomb while he was still alive. It sounds very trippy, but I think your listeners are into the trippy stuff sometimes. And go into deep meditation for the sake of just giving energy for everyone, forever. And how you were touched by that. I obviously was touched by that, but how any of us on the spiritual path, and especially when our intuitive channels are open, there's help for us. There's this energy of grace. It's like the divine's helping energy that's there for us. And to just know that, whenever we're doing this work, we're not doing it alone. We have each other, and that's a wonderful thing. But also we have the help of all of these beings and this unseen love that we can learn to tune into. So yeah, I guess I just leave us with that.
That made me cry. So thank you. Yeah, I think about often that energy, that electricity that came up through my body came from the ground. And I think about like how magnificent that is, because we're all on ground right now. Yeah. It can come right from beneath your feet. Yeah. And granted, Yaneshwar was beneath my feet in that moment and gave his energy, and I definitely received it. But just to think that there's energy in the ground everywhere. So thank you so much for sharing that. I am so grateful, sincerely, in my heart, in my belly, in every cell in my body. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your wisdom. So
beautiful.
Till next time, guys. Thank you.
Anna. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening today. If this episode supported you, please subscribe and leave a rating. That simple step helps this podcast grow and helps more people reconnect with their intuition in a grounded, embodied way. If you want to go deeper, take my 5-minute free quiz in the show notes entitled Unlock the Full Power of Your Intuition, where you'll discover your unique intuitive gifts, whether you're a knower, seer, feeler, or sensor, and learn more about how your intuition naturally speaks to you. Look out for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. I'm so honored to have spent this time with you. See you next week.